We now have a push by leftists for 16-year-olds to vote. Now, why do you think that is? Free stuff, maybe? You know? You're 16 years old, you really haven't experienced enough to vote, in my humble opinion. You're still coming through puberty. So, no, you shouldn't vote at the age of 16. And I wish the Democrats would leave our voting booth alone, leave our Constitution alone, would secure the borders, would do what a normal, mature, sober country does. But not them. And one of the other reasons they want 16-year-olds to vote is because a lot of them have the mentality of a 16-year-old. Now, they're really smart 16-year-olds, too. I just don't want them voting until they're 18. That's it. Here's what Nancy Pelosi had to say when she was asked, should 16-year-olds vote? Go.
As far as 16-year-olds voting, where do you see that going into the future?
Well, I disagree with the ACLU on this. In terms of legislation, we couldn't be prouder than H.R. 1. This is about reducing the role of big, dark, special interest money in politics and empowering small donors.
Oh, you mean like Soros and Steyer and all the other billionaires on the left? That bill is about a hell of a lot more than that, ladies and gentlemen. It violates free speech and the Constitution. We talked about the various elements in that bill. They're very tyrannical. And this is the game the left plays. They want to fix the system so only they win. They want to turn the nation into California. When California used to elect Republicans like Ronald Reagan and Duke Majan and Pete Wilson and so forth, you couldn't elect a Republican statewide there if your life depended on it now. That's exactly what they're trying to pull at the national level. They're taking the California experience, and she wants to apply it throughout the nation. Open borders, one-party system, fix the outcome of the voting booth, and all the rest of it. But anyway, go ahead.
It's about ending voter suppression. It's about making redistricting fair. It's really a source of joy and hope to so many people in the country. I myself, personally, I'm not speaking for my caucus, I myself have always been for lowering the voting age to 16. I think it's really important to capture kids when they're in high school, when they're interested in all of this, when they're learning about government, to be able to vote. That is not necessary. In other words, some of the priorities in this bill are about transparency and openness and accessibility and the rest. That's a subject of debate, but my view is that I would welcome that. But I've been in that position for a long time.
In other words, she's been an idiot for a long time. And they're just learning about history. How about our country's history? Not learning a lot of that. Anyway, so some young Americans responded in a hilarious way to Nancy Pelosi. Let's go ahead and take a look at the monitor, please. I have teenagers. The voting age does not need to change to 16. Go hang around 16-year-olds, seriously. Omar, dude, I was smoking resin out of gross pipe when I was 16, and I thought it was a good idea. This isn't a good idea. Next. When I was 16, I drove my stick VW Bug with bare tires in a snowstorm at night over a bridge, all alone. Did a donut on the way down, kept going to get my friend's party. Boy, even now he can't speak. Dread Pirate Darren. When I was 16, we thought it would be fun to see how far we could jump a van full of office furniture off a hill into the desert. We did this while standing in the back with all of the office furniture. It didn't end well. Next. Ivanel. When I was 16, I had the neon green Kool-Aid Reeboks. I was drinking 4 Lacos, and I thought I was going to become a famous rapper. Let's not do this, Nancy. Next. When I was 16, my parents helped me buy my first car, a yellow 1966 Ford Mustang. I had the car for less than a week before complaints about my reckless driving brought a police officer to our house. My parents promptly took away the car and sold it. Where's my ballot, Nancy? It's really important to lower the voting age to 16. Well, I ate a dog turd on a dare when I was 16. Well, you'd fit into the Democrat Party just well. Very well. When I was 16, my friends and I stole a crate of oranges from a local citrus grove and hucked them out of my buddy's Mustang convertible into signs on the side of the road at 65 miles per hour. Next. I believed in Santa Claus until I was a freshman in high school. But yeah, let's let him vote. Next. When I was 16, I put a potato in the microwave for 20 minutes without poking holes in it, and it caught fire. Well, next. When I was 16, I made $20 taking a shot of Dial hand soap. Oof. Next. When I was 16, my friend ate a cigarette for $2. Next. When I was 16, my friends and I shot fireworks at each other and laughed when our clothes caught on fire. As a high school teacher, I am completely 100% against this. Well, of course you are. Go.
CNN uncovering that in the 1970s, Bernie Sanders wanted to nationalize. He wanted the government to take over most of America's industries. He wanted the government to run the energy industry. He wanted the government to take over the banks, the phone companies, utilities, drug companies, and all factories. He was also quoted on wanting to outlaw wealth, saying nobody should earn more than $1 million. Your reaction, Kristen?
It's kind of interesting because this is exactly what Venezuela did in the 1990s, and it didn't work out too well for them. So let's hope Bernie has learned from history, but sadly, I don't think he has. And what's even more frightening is I don't think these comments of his will hurt him with his base. His base is fully sold on socialism. But if Bernie does get the nomination, these kinds of comments and these viewpoints will backfire enormously with the general voting population. I mean, working class Americans are terrified of this kind of rhetoric.
Yeah, because they know their middle-class taxes would have to go up to pay for his programs. He has yet to denounce Nicolas Maduro as a dictator. But Kristen, he advocated 100% taxes on the upper bracket, saying you should not make more than what you can spend in a lifetime. We have to get the government to stop that. That was his position, Kristen, in the early 70s. Don't know if he's changed.
It's so extreme, and this is so rich coming from a man who now owns 3 properties, one of which is a $600,000 lakefront property. But this is what the far left-wingers have become. They've discovered that sound bites of free stuff and greedy businesses are an easy way to kind of galvanize low-information voters.
Very good.
Would you trade Trump for Maduro?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I think Trump. I think Maduro was democratically elected.
Probably, yeah. Sure.
More than likely, yes, of course.
If there's a Nicolas Maduro out here who's going to bring us to revolution, I will support that movement.
I would rather have a bus driver in charge than a billionaire, okay?
Oh, that guy looks like...
Let's put it that way.
Nicolas Maduro could come and be our president?
Yeah.
Oh, any day. Any day. Look, all the check marks are there. He's not white. Okay, he's a minority. Okay. He looks a little too much like Saddam Hussein, though.
Let the Venezuelan people solve the problems of their own country for themselves. The U.S. needs to stay out of it and mind its own business.
Are you Venezuelan or do you have family?
No, so I'm actually Colombian.
No, I'm not. I was born in Louisiana.
No. I'm from New York State.
I consider myself Venezuelan because I am Colombian. It's the same countries are being divided by the same people, by the same regime, which is the United States government that has been over 100 years in our countries.
Were you all organizing when the Obama administration had slapped some sanctions on some officials in Venezuela? Because this has been going on for a while.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of anti-war because Obama wasn't calling for intervention into Venezuela.
Okay, so tell me about Hands Off Venezuela and why you're out here today.
Hands Off Venezuela is a protest against U.S. intervention in Venezuela. John Bolton, Elliot Abrams, they have a history of escalating conflicts in the region to the point where U.S. actually military intervenes. So that's what we want to prevent.
Well, I saw the movement, through social media, and I'm just out here to show solidarity, with a country and them exercising their right for sovereignty, and
This is fascinating. No.
to try to resist American, aggression.
The humanitarian
This whole American aggression thing, this is, you can see these old 1960s throwback types. This is something that our colleges and universities with these Marxist, Bernie Sanders type tenured professors just push and push and push. American interventionism, American colonialism, American imperialism. Really? Well, why don't you ask some of the Holocaust survivors when those American Yankees came to these various camps, among others, and secured their release and defeated the enemy. I am so sick of this country being put down, the men and women who have put their lives on the line and have died. Look at this, these schlocky, pathetic leftists here who contribute nothing to society. Go ahead.
That's happening in Venezuela is caused by the U.S. government. If they just ease the sanctions or release the sanctions, Venezuelan people can take care of their own people.
No electricity, no running water, no medicines. There is humanitarian aid at the borders of Colombia and Brazil, and the regime doesn't allow that humanitarian aid to come into the country and help our people.
There's two protests right now going on in Washington, D.C. There's the one for SOS Venezuela, where we're claiming that we want democracy, we want liberty. We don't want Maduro's regime to keep on ruling Venezuela. And there's another one that is called Hands Off Venezuela. And there's some misinformation that I would love to clarify. Over 50 countries are supporting the new government of Juan Guaido. If you're from Venezuela and you have family there, you know what's going on. A lot of the people that, hey, I'm a Democrat. I may not agree with a lot of Trump's issue, but I do understand that this is not a Republican issue. This is a bipartisan issue. And I think what happens is that since Donald Trump is supporting this case, a lot of people are saying, oh, then this must be bad.
That's what really hurt me, that they see the pictures, they read the news, they see that there's real crisis in Venezuela, and yet again, they just cling to the opportunity to just get something about Trump. These people are fixated about getting him out or whatever. I mean, they just...
Do you think they have Trump derangement syndrome?
They do. They do. I call it that way also. If I'm walking in Venezuela with a megaphone, just trying to voice out what I think about things, I'll be in jail right now or disappearing. That is happening left and right.
Right now in Venezuela, there were over 100 hours without electricity. People are dying in the streets because there's no power, there's no food. People are literally drinking water from sewages.
Socialism doesn't work. You know, don't feel that, you know, everything that people say, you know, this is going to be for free and you're not going to pay for education and all that kind of stuff. That's not true. Trust me, 20 years, we're seeing that it doesn't work. America is the land of opportunities. You know, it might sound like a cliche, but it is true, though. It's a land of opportunities. You can make it happening here if you work, if you pay your taxes, and if you do the right things.